Councillor Itzek.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sort of to reiterate what you've said through my couple of years now on council, both here within the city and as well when speaking to municipalities and other communities, the way somewhat really it's been described is the council's ability to deal with rezoning is the big hammer you have. Development permit is the small hammer. Recognizing that I don't particularly want to hit anybody with a hammer, it's a tough one to deal with in this community, and by no means would I expect the development permit to be 100% accurate, but I would say that whether it be development, the generic samples, recognizing that they were trying to be done within the community design guidelines, would probably not be something that the community as a whole would necessarily support. That's where I would tend to agree with those speaking in favor of the amendment that without a development permit that gives us a good deal closer to, or something that the community can say, discuss in depth as to is that what they want to see on that site, it is very difficult to proceed with the rezoning, which is, as has been elaborated on, our opportunity to absolutely say yes or no to the entire development. Thank you.
Ms. Harrison.
I'll pass, Your Worship.
Speaking to the motion, which is under recommendation to council. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. The chair is in favor. All right, back to the motion as amended. Anything further? Councillor Eliason.
Yeah, I just also would like to, when we spoke about the financial institution, I'd like to see sort of staff recommendation as well, at same lines for the gas bar or the gas service station as well.
Are you making a motion?
I'm not making a motion because it got defeated last time when we talked about the bank, but I'd like to see more information about the permitting of the gas station on site.
All right.
Worship, can I get more direction on that, please?
Well, we've talked about moving the banks out of town and moving away from the vitality of our downtown core. And if we're talking about tourist highway traffic and they come through town, and the majority, 90% of our gas stations are within our downtown. If we look from the Shell station to what used to be the Tim Hortons Petrocan, we've lost 3 or 4 of them, and that's a major thing for people to stop on Hannaford. Not just our local people, but mostly tourists and people passing through. So if we start moving that tourist traffic away from the downtown core, that further, I guess, reduces traffic stopping or spending even 5 to 15 minutes in town. I'd really like to see a report that shows the need and why there's a need on the outskirts of our downtown core for a gas station. That's my justification for it. I don't know if council supports that or not, but that's, and I see if we're creating this center and we're taking all these centers that we provide in our downtown core, that reduces the vibrancy and vitality of our downtown core. So just I'd like to know more about it.
Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I am going to support the motion.
The main motion.
The main to forward it to council for first reading. I'm not going to comment on the opponent, and I know that what you've asked for and what staff's recommended is 2 different things at this time. For me, I think that's important to hear what the public thinks about that, and so I'll wait to hear their feelings about having some high-density residential out there. There's certainly pros and cons to it, but I appreciate the amendments to the motion, and so I will support the reading.
Councillor Flynn.
I guess I just had a question with regards to timing, because I do agree with what you said. Land use is one issue and forming character is another, and I'm guessing going to be 8 to 10 to 12 months away from anything happening, because without the rezoning you can't get any tenants. So I guess we probably don't need to spend a whole bunch of time talking or thinking about this anymore, because I don't see how we're going to have a development permit. And even Councillor then said the development permit, although it might not be that accurate, the development permit is supposed to be the last step before you build. And basically once the development permit is approved, then the building starts. So I don't know how we can proceed with this any further. I think that we basically made this whole discussion irrelevant, probably until the point where somebody has to decide to put start building. And I think we're a long ways from dealing with anything. So I will vote to move it forward for what it's worth, but I don't think we're going to be discussing this anytime in the near future. With regards to the residential, I think medium density at the least makes sense. Any residential makes sense, and I would have never thought how important it was for people to live near a mall, but we're getting significant development around our mall here, or around our malls, and so I think that it does have some merit. That and also being close to the lake, I think that would be decent residential. So I will vote to move it forward, but I would suggest we're probably not a lot of time on this in the next little while.
Councillor Exent.
Just in terms of directions for staff as well, like I said, one of the key things I'm interested in, at least on site too, at any point we have more discussion on integrating this potential development into our community, would be how it might be in the public transportation system. Just trying to have an understanding of would public transportation come close to it, as per Councillor Eliason's mentioned, an actual transit hub in the vicinity or anything like that. I want to have an understanding of, and what those costs would be and who those costs would be borne by in terms of us potentially even needing to expand public transportation in relation to the site.
Councillor Eliason.
Thanks. Thanks for coming and presenting and listening to us. It's been a brief meeting of 2 hours so far. So, and I'm gonna go and guess that it might be the shortest of all of our meetings as this moves forward. The thing about this is that, like you said, there aren't too many of these sites available, and now this time is the time for us to do diligence and get it right and make sure that if this gets passed and this development goes through, that in fact it works for not only yourselves and the development and the stores that go there, but also the rest of the community. So thank you for giving us and letting us say what we think is right. And then there's going to be a few other people who come to the public hearing and tell us what they think is right. So that's part of how this process works. I hope to move this forward, and I'm optimistic that we can move to a public hearing sooner rather than later and get that first input so the process can move quick to whatever decision it comes to. So again, thank you, and yeah, I'll move this forward. Look forward to next Monday.
Councillor Gannon.
I too will vote to move it forward, but I do feel for the developer because I think the whole development permit and rezone is going to be a huge issue for him as he looks for tenants, possible tenants. So I'll vote him forward and see what happens from there.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Next item is item 4.4, mobile business license pilot.
We don't have a motion, Your Worship. We're probably looking for that at the end of this discussion.
Okay, we'll hear the Mr. Roy and discussion.
The information is in front of you. I'll just try and briefly recap. We've been involved in an intermunicipal program with North Okanagan Community since 2002. And a number of months ago, the provincial was looking at a single business license proposal for the province. And it seems like rather than in that direction, they've tried to create a system where they could expand what we're doing and use as a pilot project for the Okanagan and Similkameen regions. I think after a year, they will revisit the pilot and see if there's a means of expanding it for other areas of the province, or maybe even just increasing the present geographical area. This is not a great departure from what we're doing now, other than it expands everyone who is mobile, not just construction trades, which is what we're doing now. We currently have 49 of our locals obtained intermunicipal business licenses and move out of our area.